This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. It is Monday, October 7th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, the United States Supreme Court takes on some very important cases as it begins its election year term, including a state abortion law and religious freedom versus transgendered rights. A second whistleblower comes forward in the impeachment actions against President Donald Trump, as one leading senator says he'll make these whistleblowers testify publicly. The U.S. begins to pull its forces out of northeastern Syria as Turkey threatens an invasion that could affect Christians in the area and Israel as well. And here at home, we're going to hear from a leading quarterback in the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles' Carson Wentz. He's talking not only football, but also his faith. Those stories and more are ahead in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. We want to begin with the U.S. Supreme Court as it begins its new election year term today. It will take up cases involving religious liberty and transgender rights. An important state law from Louisiana involving regulations of doctors who perform abortions and whether or not states can prevent tax dollars from being involved in any way with religious purposes. Paul Strand reports on how these cases could have a big impact on people of faith.
The court starts off the new term with cases that could hit religious believers hard. One involves a funeral home and a fired transgender worker, and it could have broader implications for existing civil rights law and invasion of privacy.
It involves a man named Anthony Stevens who worked at a Christian funeral home and announced to his bosses that he wanted to become Amy Stevens and start wearing dresses instead of business suits to work. He was terminated and he sued.
The owner is saying, I believe it's almost a ministry, really, in my business, reaching out to and supporting families who are grieving, and it would be a distraction from that to have someone who is a biological male wearing a dress.
Tom Rost heads up Harris Funeral Homes.
The families that we serve, how would they possibly react to this?
People may think that this case is simply about whether a business can fire someone for being transgender.
John Bursch represents the funeral homes. He says their defeat could have huge and harmful implications.
It can mean the violation of intimate privacy spaces at high schools and colleges, including showers, restrooms, and locker rooms. And it also affects the privacy spaces at shelters, women's shelters, where recently in Alaska, a man who said he was a woman demanded to sleep 3 feet away from women who had been raped and sexually abused.
Ryan Anderson has been writing about the push for special rights for transgenders.
And this is largely driven from the top level of kind of cultural and political activists, Hollywood activists, media activists, university activists, and just straightforward political activists. That's where a lot of this is coming from. It's not happening at the grassroots level.
As for abortion, the court has agreed to take up a Louisiana case that might have a big impact. It would force abortion doctors to have admitting privileges at local hospitals. Pro-choice types say that's too restrictive. Pro-life advocates like Alan Parker of the Justice Foundation say it could strike at the heart of legalized abortion.
The court could use that to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Pro-life advocates showed up at the court last week armed with a petition signed by 250,000 people. It asks the court to overturn Roe v. Wade, the 1973 ruling that legalized abortion. And many believe now is the best opportunity in years to tackle Roe.
There is new evidence, new scientific evidence, new facts that this court needs to consider, and that would justify overturning the precedent of Roe versus Wade.
There's about 10 or 15 cases that could be the one that overturns Roe v. Wade that are moving towards the Supreme Court.
Another case, Espinoza versus Montana Department of Revenue, could decide if states can refuse to let any kind of tax money be involved with religion.
People in Montana were donating money to scholarships to send children to private schools, and then they get a big tax break for that. But Montana found out that some of the scholarships were sending kids to religious schools and said, that's not legal.
Lawyer Severino suggests Montana's bureaucrats may have gone too far.
If you took them to their most extreme interpretation, you could say, well, the state can't fund 911 service to a church, for example, because that involves state funds that are going to help a religious institution.
There are some cases with religious implications that the court has not agreed to take up, but those involved hope it will.
Like Baronelle Studsman's. She's the Washington State florist who told a gay friend she couldn't do the floral arrangements for his gay wedding because that goes against her religious beliefs.
If I lose in court, I will likely lose everything. The penalties and attorney's fees could be well over $1 million. My business would be gone. My husband and I would lose our home and our retirement.
The reason the people who are big advocates for religious liberty hope that the court will take up more of their kind of cases is because, especially with 2 Trump appointees, they feel that the justices are leaning more favorably towards people of faith. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from the Supreme Court.
Paul, thank you. The impeachment battle in Washington has heated up with a second whistleblower coming forward about President Donald Trump's phone call with Ukraine. But the White House is dismissing these latest claims as well. Heather Sells is on this story.
The second whistleblower is supporting the first whistleblower's claim that President Trump used the power of his office to solicit interference from a foreign country in the 2020 U.S. election.
We are tremendously dependent on people of courage stepping forward.
A lawyer for both whistleblowers says the second is also a member of the intelligence community. He or she hasn't yet filed a complaint with the Inspector General, but the second apparently has firsthand knowledge of the president's call. That could be a problem for the president, who has sought to discredit the first for lacking direct knowledge of his phone call with the president of Ukraine.
He got his information, I guess, second or third hand.
But the White House says even first-hand information isn't a big deal. A press secretary told ABC News, quote, "It doesn't matter how many people decide to call themselves whistleblowers about the same phone call, a phone call the president already made public." The president has repeatedly said he did nothing improper, and South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham told Fox News he'll have the anonymous whistleblowers testify publicly if Democrats move ahead with impeachment. But a few Republicans are taking Trump on over his call for China to investigate his possible Democratic opponent Joe Biden. Senator Susan Collins called it a big mistake, although she's not commenting on the president's dealings with Ukraine.
I don't want to prejudge the evidence. Plus, not all the evidence is in yet.
The impeachment inquiry moves forward today with George Kent, a State Department expert on Ukraine, set to be disposed. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has tried to prevent him from testifying. Heather Sells, CBN News.
A school district in Wisconsin just changed its graduation policy after a pastor's graduation speech back in June, all because of a complaint from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. It told the Appleton, Wisconsin School District it received 29 complaints about pastor and school board member Alvin Dupree referencing his faith. Speeches will now have to be submitted 2 weeks in advance for approval. Dupree responded to the changes saying, quote, "I support freedom of speech for all. No matter what, I will stand on the godly principles that God's word represents. To all who support or oppose this stance, just know there are people who put the uniform on fighting for your ability to openly express yourself and your source of strength. I am one of them." Now you can find this full report at cbnnews.com. Kanye West held his latest Sunday service in Utah with crowd estimates of 7,000 to 10,000 people. West performed one song himself, Jesus Walks, from his 2004 album, The College Dropout. Other musicians and choirs also performed. The Salt Lake Tribune reported West prayed and testified about his journey to a relationship with Jesus Christ. West briefly talked about politics as well. Fox News reports he defended his support for President Donald Trump, saying the Republicans freed the slaves, and that's, quote, mental slavery to make political decisions based only on race. Coming up, U.S. troops began pulling back today from positions in northeastern Syria ahead of Turkey's military action in the area. We're going to have a look at what that could mean for Christians and Kurdish allies in the region as well as Israel. Stay with us.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream. The chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities. The chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
The White House announced Sunday evening the U.S. will stand aside as Turkey's President Erdogan invades northeast Syria. That decision may place Christians and Kurds there in great danger. Change of the balance of power in the region and threaten only the embryonic democracy in the Middle East, but also Israel itself. Chris Mitchell brings us the story now from Jerusalem.
This video shows U.S. armored vehicles leaving the area along Turkey's border. The pullout comes just hours after the White House announced U.S. troops would clear the way for an expected invasion by Turkish forces. Turkey's President Erdogan said the assault into northeast Syria was imminent.
We have made our preparations. We have completed our operation plans. We have given the necessary orders. The decision has been made and the process has begun for the springs of peace. And now opening up their path is as near as maybe today, maybe tomorrow.
The decision by Trump allows Turkish forces to enter into the area controlled by the Self-Administration of Northeast Syria, or SANS. This government was formed after the Syrian civil war and has become a democratic entity with broad representation of all its peoples, along with religious freedom. Erdogan claims the Kurdish group in northeast Syria called the YPG is a threat to Turkey, a threat he has said for months he wants to eliminate. To appease Turkish claims, the U.S. and Turkey recently began joint patrols in the area, but the Turks said that wasn't enough. So now they're on the verge of a Turkish invasion with unforeseen consequences to the region. The White House decision is seen by some as a betrayal of the Syrian Democratic Forces, who have been the #1 ally of the U.S. in the fight against ISIS since 2015. In a statement, the SDF said, this Turkish military operation in northern and eastern Syria will have a significant negative impact on our war on ISIS and will destroy everything that has been achieved from the state of stability over the past years. We in the SDF will not hesitate for a moment to defend ourselves against this Turkish aggression. This decision threatens the new government and up to 100,000 Christians living mostly along the Turkish border. Erdogan also told the UN recently he wants to flood the area with up to 2 million Syrian refugees. But before Turkey's President Erdogan invades northeast Syria, CBN News has learned it's quite possible the fledgling democratic government there will surrender to Syrian President Assad, who is allied with the Russians and Iranians. They see Assad as a lesser evil than Erdogan, but this surrender would upset the fragile balance of power in a critical area of the Middle East. As CBN News has reported, if Iran enters this area, it would assist their goal of a land bridge from Tehran to the Mediterranean. That would also put Iran in a stronger position on Israel's northern border and increase the Iranian threat to Israel. CBN News has learned the government in northeast Syria might be forced under these circumstances to release the thousands of ISIS prisoners it's now holding. They would probably escape to Iraq, which would further destabilize an Iraqi government already going through its own internal crisis. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
We're shifting gears and turning to the world of sports to talk to one of the most well-known quarterbacks in the NFL, Carson Wentz of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's talking about how he plays for an audience of one and his message of overcoming through the power of Jesus Christ. Stay with us.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
The Philadelphia Eagles moved into a tie for first place in the NFC East Sunday with a decisive 31-6 win over the New York Jets. Philadelphia quarterback Carson Wentz completed 17 of 29 passes and threw for 1 touchdown. As CBN sports reporter Tom Buring tells us, while millions of fans cheer for Wentz, he is only playing for an audience of one.
Carson Wentz plays quarterback much like he lives life, impromptu, eagerly creating plays that both score points and impact lives. The North Dakota native led the NDSU Bison to 2 national championships before finding the fast track to Philadelphia, becoming the face of the Eagles franchise in a journey where home still stays within reach.
It always just hits me a little different when I come back home and I see kids wearing my jersey. I was that kid. I was the kid who grew up and walked these streets. I was the kid who was at these football camps that I might be putting on. Too much fun?
Yeah.
What did the North Dakota upbringing deposit in your life, Carson?
Yeah, growing up in North Dakota, I think the makeup of North Dakotans in general and the makeup of the Midwest, just kind of those family values and Christian values that are kind of instilled in you when you're younger. So those things have stuck with me to this day.
Describe your quarterback style.
I think my quarterback style is unique. I want to be a pocket passer first, but you know, when I need to extend plays and do things with my legs, I'll definitely take advantage of that. I feel like I'm a gunslinger, and I'm willing to take chances. I'm willing to force a pass here and there, and playing with that mentality and just kind of playing freely out there.
Is that a part of your personality?
It is. It is. I think that kind of abstract mind and kind of playing off schedule sometimes and improvising, I think, is definitely how my mind is, and it's always running, it's always going, always thinking of the next thing, and that's definitely how I play the game too.
What's most appealing about Philly for a North Dakota guy?
I absolutely just love the fans here. I love the passion that they bring. It's just such a unique culture in this city of blue-collar work ethic and just a deep-rooted, sense of belonging and purpose within these games. So it's so much bigger than just a Sunday afternoon football game. And They always show up, they bring their best, they bring their A game, good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter. The fans are always there, and I love that about this place.
You're a part of a Super Bowl team. You positioned them to get there, but because of injury, you weren't able to see that through.
Yeah.
What did you take away from that win by simply supporting and watching?
I mean, I learned a lot about myself. I always preach, I play for an audience of one and just have that mindset. I'm always talking about it. But then when it came down to it and I wasn't able to be out there, I had to really put that faith in action, and really just ultimately say, all right, God, I'm surrendering all of this to you. And it was tough. And so it was definitely a journey that I had to take, but I thank God for it in the end.
Are you aware in the moment, I need to put this into practice?
Yeah, you see some little things. Maybe it's just some little hardening of the heart, or maybe some certain things that maybe kind of crept into the idol side, and maybe I was, putting football maybe a little too much on that platform, and I think God was just molding me to be more like Him and really truly value Him first, and ultimately say it's His. This is just a gift. This is a platform. This is ability that I've been given, but it's His.
You have chosen, as you've said, to narrow your audience to one. Let me hear that from you. For whom and why?
I can't escape it. That's just my life motto. And the phrase audience of one, I actually have it tattooed on my wrist. AO1 came to me when I was a freshman in college. That's when my faith really became real to me and really became a personal relationship with Christ. And I heard someone say that phrase, a great reminder for me when I'm out there playing, but it's everything I do. Serving my wife, being a son or a friend, whatever it is, the Lord is my audience. And playing Monday Night Football, you're being watched by millions, or the media is writing things about you, good or bad. What matters is how God views you and what He says that you are.
You have the foundation under the same name, Audience of One. Messaging Christianity, you guys are doing that.
I think it's twofold. I think when you're sharing the gospel, you're verbally sharing, expressing who Christ is, but it also, so many people, our lives are changed because of how you live, because of how you walk it out. That's something that we strive to do with the AO1 Foundation, with Thy Kingdom Come, partnering to build the Haiti Sports Complex, with the outdoor ministry that we have going in the Midwest. We always want to tangibly bless somebody with an opportunity, with food, with something unique that'll fix a physical need, but a spiritual need at the same time. That's what it's all about.
What makes Thy Kingdom Come unique?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is it's free. It's an opportunity for people to just open up, engage, have a community block party, and then hopefully dig a little deeper spiritually.
Camp Conqueror.
Yeah.
What message is it you want them to remember?
I mean, it is that message of overcoming, and ultimately that message of overcoming through Jesus. Obviously, they're going through some amazingly difficult things, and the biggest thing we want them to hold on to and cling to is that Jesus is greater than all of those things. We set them up for some amazing experiences here, to leave with some amazing memories, friendships, relationships. We want to foster that environment. We want to nurture that. We want to disciple them as we leave here as well.
You're learning about being a conqueror. What does that mean to you?
It means to overcome your fears and just be brave and do what you love to do.
Everyone's different. Everyone's at a different place. Everyone's had a different experience with maybe the church, maybe with someone with their family. So just first and foremost, meeting people where they are, loving on people, helping them feel seen. So it's not always just about what you say to them, it's how you care for them, how you show love and respect for them.
How does it evolve from cliche to conviction about a God that wants to engage with you?
Yeah, God wants me to ultimately surrender to Him, have that relationship with Him, and that's truly all that matters. So for me to have my Lord Jesus Christ as my audience, it just changes my perspective on everything.
So with the NFL guaranteed contract, what is personally lost when putting confidence in perceived certainty?
That's a good question. When you have a contract of that value, it's so easy to just rest on that. And financially, that's an amazing blessing, and to not lose sight of that. But it's something you always got to guard against, being too invested into financial success, personal success, because at the end of the day, if your relationship with Christ is out of order, everything else is going to be a mess, be missing the most important thing in life.
Coming up, Hurricane Dorian devastated parts of the Bahamas, and the region has a long way to go to recover. We're going to show you how CBN's Operation Blessing is on the scene, helping those in need, both there as well as in Texas, as people continue to recover from Tropical Storm Imelda. We'll be right back.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage,
you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
CBN's Operation Blessing is helping to bring victims of Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas and Tropical Storm Imelda in Texas as well. In the Bahamas, Operation Blessing's teams produced and distributed hundreds of gallons of clean water in the communities of West End and High Rock, as well as various schools. They also helped to provide materials to help repair the roof and ceiling of one primary school. And Superbook is reaching out in 2 schools with activities for children. And in Beaumont, Texas, Operation Blessings teams are helping people to clean up after flooding from Tropical Storm Imelda. Teams are removing furniture, mildewed carpets, and rotten flooring, tearing out and replacing damaged drywall, all the while giving spiritual comfort to the victims. 700 Club viewers Deborah Orders and her husband, Eric, came all the way from North Carolina to help. Deborah says she can see the difference it is making in those people's lives.
They're so thankful. They're really thankful. And just their faces and how many times they thank you over and over. And it just pulls at your heartstrings and you want to do more. And it's rewarding. I'm glad we came.
And Deborah and Eric celebrated 25 years of marriage last week by helping people through Operation Blessing. Great way to celebrate indeed. Time now for your Monday motivation, and today I leave you with this thought: the grace of God is greater than anything. There is no mistake that can disqualify you from His grace. This is a great Monday to repent and make peace with your past and to receive the grace of God. With that word, make today a marvelous Monday. That will do it for this first edition of CBN Newswatch. Remember, you can get more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel at any time or at cbnnews.com. Also, we'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us. That address is newswatch@cbn.com. And, of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Certainly hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make today a marvelous Monday and make this week a wonderful one as well. We'll see you right back here. Same time tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody, and God bless.